Welcome to tonight's Mindful Monday telecast. And we'd like to welcome all our newcomers, people who are here for the first time. And of course, we also want to welcome all those who have been following us. We've been doing this for about 6 months now and had a great response. For those of you who are new, the way we do this, we are focusing on different topics. Usually they come in two parts. We'll give a review of what we spoke about 2 weeks ago, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers. So we ask you that you do remain muted during the first portion, which usually takes about 40-45 minutes. And then afterwards, we will be more than happy to respond to your questions. We'll tell you how to send in your questions in. Once we get to that place, we do have some very exciting news once we finish. So you do want to stay till at least the end of the first portion of this, if you can, to really understand and comprehend what we are talking about. Again, just to introduce myself, my name is Alan Nemtzov. I am the co-founder and the CEO of Ascent by KTPO. Ascent is a program that we started about 6 years ago due to my weight loss history, my weight loss success. I've maintained 100-pound weight loss for over 21 years now. And about 6 years ago, I started to teach people how to keep their weight off. And it evolved, and realizing that people needed deeper healing. And I created this program that does trauma healing. And that is one of the biggest successes that we've had here thus far. I am a psychiatric registered nurse for the last 15 years, board certified, as well as a published author and a health coach. And I want to welcome you all here who took your time tonight. I know it is a busy time of the year, a transitional time towards the end of the summer, back to school, not yet, just before, just during. And I do understand that it is a busy time. So the fact that you have taken out some of your precious time and agreed to share it with us, I do hope that it is beneficial for you and inspirational, as have been for the last 6 months of these Mindful Monday teleconferences that we do every 2 weeks. We will have a different schedule next week, and we'll talk about next month, and we'll talk about that when we get to the end of our first portion tonight. So once again, if you do have any questions, please hold them until after we finish the first part of what we've been speaking about. And the topic that we spoke about 2 weeks ago, and we are continuing tonight, is the power of self. The power of self, really, I learned about this, and I've spoken about this multiple times. I speak a lot about it in our program. Something that really inspired me when I was in nursing school, in the study of the cells that are in our body, the trillions and trillions upon trillions of cells that each one of you, and myself included, and every human being, are created from. Obviously, everything, every microorganism, every living organism, I should say, is created from cells, made up from cells. And when I studied that, our professor was teaching us that the power of the cells that we are created with, that once there is conception and a human being starts to form, those cells have inside them the power to be able to sustain a human being for life. Even though the truth is that there is constant, what we call mitosis, which is the duplication of the cells, but there's also cell death that happens throughout an individual's life. In fact, it takes 11 months for the entire physical being, the entire physical body, to be recreated. Certain parts like blood cells, they die every 90 days. And that is how we age, that is how we form, that is how we look differently as time goes on. And as we age, we don't look like children anymore. This is all part of that process that goes on constantly. It never stops. It doesn't matter whether we are awake. It doesn't matter whether we are asleep. It doesn't matter whether we are walking and doing exercise. It doesn't matter whether we are sitting and resting. It doesn't matter whether we are eating. It doesn't matter whatever we are doing. The cell process of the cells dying and recreating and rejuvenating themselves goes on constantly whether you are aware of it or not. Fascinating that these cells are created with all of their nutrients, with all the abilities to keep you alive throughout your lifetime. We are now connecting to that concept and the power of self. What we spoke about last week is the physical aspect of the power of self, because the truth is there are two aspects of the power of self. And this is not a religious program. We are more psychological and spiritual. We're not religious, so we're not here to teach anybody anything about any of your beliefs in whatever level of Yiddishkeit or any religion that you're in. We're not. That is not what we are here for. There are places that you can reach out to, and you all know that, where you can get your fill of all that. This is not a contradiction to that, of course, God forbid, but it's also not a religious program. And when we speak about this aspect, we are talking about the basic aspect of humans, the basic aspect of creation. And whatever it is that you believe, who the creator is and who created the world, we're not going to get into that discussion here. That we are not going to address. That is totally your personal perspective, and we respect that. That is not what this is. Like I said, it's not a religious program. Whether you don't believe in God, whether you believe in nature, whether you do believe in God, all of what we are saying here is not contradictory to any of that. And what we are created with as humans, that human self, fascinating thing is that we all have our DNA, and everybody knows about the DNA. And there are two DNAs in every living organism. Every mammal, in other words, all the animals and all the fish, all have two DNAs. Actually, not the fish, the mammals. When I say the mammals, dolphins are part of the mammals, penguins are part of the mammals. Animal kingdom are part of the mammals, and humans, of course, are part of the mammals too. We all have two DNAs in each and every cell. There's one DNA that is in the nucleus, and there is one DNA that is outside of the nucleus of the cell. The DNA that is in the nucleus is what makes you unique, what makes you look differently, your personality, your facial features, your body features. Everything physical about you is different. Just like we say there are no two snowflakes alike, there are no two humans alike, because every human has their own specific DNA that is in your nucleus. The one that is outside of the nucleus, but still, the nucleus is the core, the center of the cell. And we're talking about cellular level, not something that you can see with the naked eye. You need a microscope. The other DNA that is outside of the nucleus, but still inside the cell, that is in every human and every mammal, in other words, all of the animals of the animal kingdom, they are all identical. Fascinating. We all have, humans and mammals alike, have one DNA that is identical across the board. And then we have our uniqueness, our own personality, the way we think, the way we behave, and again, our different features in our bodies, the way we look, all of that, that is the DNA that is inside of our nucleus. And why am I expounding on this? Because we spoke about last week the limitations, or our last teleconference 2 weeks ago, that we spoke about the limitations of the physical body. The physical body is a machine, no different than a car, and which is also a machine. And if you take care of your car, it's going to last longer. If you take care of your machine, your body, it will last longer. The difference is that a car doesn't grow. A human being and a mammal, animals, we do grow because we are living in a living organism. And therefore, we do change as goes on with time. However, our DNA remains the same. We do not change our DNA at all. the way we start with, that is the way we live our life. The added part is, of course, and this is where the confusion comes in. But before we get to that, and this is where people struggle, because if you notice, the way we do things is we talk concepts, esoteric ideas, sometimes way out their ideas, but we bring it down to practicality, because in my experience and in my teachings and learnings, that if it's not brought down to practical, they're nice ideas, but why would I sit and listen to just nice ideas if it's not going to affect me on a day-to-day basis? And everything that we talk about here, the purpose of this is that it should affect you in a positive way on a day-to-day basis. Understanding your limitations as a physical being is absolutely imperative to your growth, to the way that you interact in life, to your decision making. Everything about you has to be with that understanding. And a lot of people forget, and we're going to get to that, why people forget and how they forget about that limitation. People are perfectionists, for instance, forget that they are a limited physical human being. The reason for this confusion is because the truth is that in Earth, in the universe, in our little bubble here that we're living in creation on planet Earth, there are two energies that are here. And once again, this is not a religious belief. It doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. The fact is, and this is a fact, it's not an opinion, is that there is a physical energy and there is a spiritual energy that is here. The fact that I am a physical human being talking, that you can hear, that your ears can hear, that your brain can comprehend what you're saying, what you are hearing, that your eyes can see, that your heart can beat, that your lungs can expand and exhale and inhale and breathe. That is the spiritual aspect that is within the physical world. So even if you don't believe in God as the creator, it doesn't really affect this fact that there is a spiritual energy that is in the world. And there are two major differences. There are a lot of major differences, but we're not going to get into all of them. But we're going to discuss two major differences that there are between the physical energy and the spiritual energy. The physical energy is a very limited energy. The physical energy does not last forever. It is forever changing every minute. The clock is turning. That is a physical energy that is changing every single moment. In fact, the only constant in life is change. Change is something that happens every single second. You cannot think your way out of change. You cannot act your way or behave your way out of change. There is no way that you can stop the clock of life moving. We as human beings do not have that ability. The physical world is constantly changing. It is limited, yet it is changing. It is born, it lives, and it dies. That is the physical world that has been around for the last 6,000 years almost. The amount of time that this earth has been around is the physical world. The creatures that were here 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 100 years ago, all of that is gone. None of it is here anymore. The physical energies that were here are gone. Two physical energies cannot take up the same space at the same time. One physical brain cannot comprehend, cannot meditate, cannot think two thoughts at the same time. Two rocks, two physical beings cannot take up the same space at the same time. The human mind, the physical mind, cannot comprehend things that go on forever. We can only comprehend a beginning and an end. They say space goes on forever. There's no way of proving it because we can't get to forever. Just because we can see, even with all our telescopes and all our modern technology and the space centers with everything that they have, they cannot see the end because it's infinite. We do not comprehend infinity. If you ever try to comprehend the concept of something going on forever and just close your eyes and meditate on that, it's impossible for your mind to grasp that. Why? Because our physical mind is limited. A lot of people forget that, and it makes their life so difficult because they believe that they have the physical ability to do beyond what the physical world energy is there. We are given logic, which is a very powerful part of our creation, of our humanness, of our being. Yet even logic, which is the part of our mind that makes us unique as human beings, even that is extremely limited. Like I stated, you cannot comprehend infinite. You cannot comprehend something having no beginning that was always here. We hear about this, oh, God was always here. It's not something, I'm not denying that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that you, as a physical mind, you cannot comprehend it. You can believe it as a belief, but as to really comprehend that something was always here, that's impossible for you to comprehend. We do not have the ability to speak two words at the exact same time because our mind cannot think two thoughts at the exact same time. People think that they can multitask. The truth is we semi-task, and something we talk a lot about in our program. People forget this. People want to forget this, especially people who go through trauma, which is one of the major things that we deal with in our programs. People who have gone through different types of traumas, they don't want to remember that they are humans. They don't want to connect and comprehend the simple fact that they are limited as human beings. It is too scary for them. People who, and I speak from personal experience, when I was 312 pounds, I was avoiding, distracting reality with my overeating. Was it helping? No, not at all. I did not want to accept the fact that I am a limited human being. It was too scary for me. Somebody who's not gone through that cannot really comprehend what that is. I work in a psychiatric ward, psychiatric emergency room, and the people that come to us, depressed, suicidal, different types of mental illness, and they come with this anxiety, and they are trying so hard to make it through the day, and they just give up, and they just can't function, and they don't want to hear this, that they are a human being. We don't want to accept that we are limited, that we are imperfect, that we make mistakes, that we make poor decisions. That is how we learn and grow. However, for a normal person, that's fine. But a person who's been through some type of a trauma, they don't want to accept the fact that they are limited and they are human. And they will do anything in their power, subconsciously, mostly, to avoid remembering that they are a limited human being. Where does the confusion lie? The confusion lies in the spiritual concept, this spiritual energy that is here in the universe. This spiritual energy never changes. It is not limited by the laws of nature. It is not limited by the physical laws that the human being, as a physical body, is created with these laws. Laws that you and I cannot change. I didn't make up the rules. I really didn't. I'm only talking about what is actually here. We're talking about concepts. We're talking about facts. We're not even talking about perceptions or beliefs. And we don't want to believe, for a lot of us, that we are limited. It's a very scary thing for a lot of people. And a lot of that comes from dysfunctional upbringing, where there was emotional neglect, where we were not allowed to express our emotions, because emotions are the spiritual part of the world. Emotions, the spiritual, is really in the heart. The physical, the logic, is in the head. One of the major differences between the physical aspect, we've been speaking about a few differences, that the physical constantly changes, constantly, is limited in its abilities. The physical, which is in the mind, is in the brain, is where all the questions are. All the questions that you have, why this is happening, why that is happening, and interestingly enough, our brethren, the other mammals in creation, the living organisms, they don't ask why. They don't have logic. They are not fueled by logic. They do not have remorse. They do not have a conscience. They live on instinct. They don't have logic. Logic was given to man, was given to human beings. Logic can be extremely helpful when used appropriately. However, logic is where all the questions are. The spiritual aspect of the person, that spiritual energy, is in the heart. And in the heart, there are only answers. There are no questions in the heart. If all the answers are in the heart, why would we keep using the logic to try to figure things out? Isn't that what logic was given to man, in order to figure things out? Absolutely it was. However, once we get to a point where we are recognizing our limitations as physical beings, all of a sudden, our logic stops working and we get stuck. And that's where people come to me, come to our program to help them get unstuck. And the reason we get unstuck, the reason we get stuck, is we get confused by where does logic start and where does it end, and how to connect to that spiritual aspect of ourselves, where spiritual part of us has zero limitations, none. The solutions to every problem that we have is really in our heart. It's not in our mind. We figure things out with our logic, but the truth is none of us own the future. So as great as our logic is, how many times have you used your logic to figure something out and it didn't go the way that you anticipated? You had these expectations of what something should happen or should not happen, and you figured it out, used your logic, and then it went completely different direction than you had anticipated. And then in retrospect, a day later, a week later, a month later, you said, wow, I'm so grateful that it didn't go the way that I wanted, because it worked out so much better. That is this spiritual energy that is in each and every one of us, that protects us in our subconscious, that spiritual part of us that is there, that is connected to our physical world. The physical mind, once again, is very limited. The question, of course, is how do I connect to that spiritual aspect of me? Now, a lot of people use religion, use praying to connect to that spiritual energy that is in me. And they go through life, and does it work? Absolutely, 100%. However, for many people, it doesn't work, and that's where the struggle comes. The reason it's not working, it's not that there's a problem with the spiritual. The spiritual has no problem. The spiritual has no limitations. The spiritual is not limited by the physical understanding of life. The reason why it doesn't work is because there is somewhere a distorted part of ourselves. It's almost like our DNA gets affected because we go through some type of trauma, or through our upbringing, we did not get the appropriate nurturing that we need. And therefore, we are just looking in the wrong place. And we don't understand really that identity of what it means to be a human being. And that confusion, where do I use my logic? Where do I not use my logic? And the irony is, people who do inner work, that once they get their logic back and understand its limitations, they don't want it anymore. They say, you know what? I prefer not to have that limited human logic. It just got me into trouble. Because the truth is, we don't know. Our life can change on a dime. Things can happen in life that beyond our comprehension, beyond our understanding, and we just keep trying to figure it out. And as I said, we have the logic. Human beings, not human beings, animals, they don't have a conscience. They don't have logic. They have instinct. They don't ask why. They don't need to understand why the bigger animals are trying to eat them. They understand that they do try to eat them. They don't ask why. The trees, plantations, the other living organisms also do not ask why. The stars, the moon, which comprehend these concepts at a higher level, a deeper level than we humans understand it. We think that we're the smartest of all the creations. The truth is that there are creations that understand creation, understand life at a much deeper level than we do. How does one connect to that spiritual entity? I'm sorry, energy, not entity, spiritual energy, so that we can transcend above our limited physical being and be able to live a life without the frustration, with limited anxiety, not feeling stuck, not getting affected by what other people think about us, not trying to be perfect, not afraid of being vulnerable, not afraid of making mistakes, not afraid of admitting when we did something wrong. How do we get to that level? How do we connect? Last week, last session, we gave everybody a piece of homework. And the homework was for you to write your truth. Because without getting this identity, without understanding and comprehending and accepting the fact that you are a human being, you will struggle in life in various aspects. If there are certain goals or certain things that you want to accomplish in life, and you don't understand why you can't get there. If you're having struggles with your relationships, if you have struggles with your weight, if you have struggles with different people in your life, it is because you forget that you're a human being. When you remember you're a human being, these problems just don't arise. They really don't. So we asked you to write down your truths. Because a lot of times we write down our perceptions and we think it's our truth, but it's really not. Mark Twain, one of the great American authors said, it's not what we do not know that gets us into the most trouble. It's what we know for certain that just isn't. I'll repeat that. It's not what we don't know that gets us into the most trouble. It's what we know for certain that just isn't so. How many times we have these beliefs and these ideas, and we base our whole life on these, what we thought is our facts, our truths. We think it's our truths. And then something happens and we realize it's just not. Maybe we heard it somewhere. Maybe it was somebody else's idea. Maybe it was somebody else's coping mechanism. So we said, what are your truths? Write down your truths. I'm going to ask you to do that again as homework, because that is the way, the only way to connect to that spiritual energy is with the truth. Something that is almost impossible, in my opinion, to do it on a deep level on your own. Almost impossible. There's many reasons why. There's certain coping mechanisms that us humans have that won't allow us to get to our truth. The one thing that every human being goal is every day, every single day. When we wake up in the morning, we all have one goal, same goal. Not only every human being, every mammal, every living organism has the exact same goal, regardless of your situation, regardless of what's going on in your life, regardless of where you are, regardless of your gender, regardless of your religion, regardless of your age. Every human being, every living organism wakes up with the exact same goal. And that goal is to survive. To survive the day. When somebody says, oh, you're selfish, yeah, I should be selfish. Absolutely. Without me, I have no life. Yes, it is important to be selfish. Doesn't mean that if I'm selfish, that I don't care about other people and I don't want to do kindness and do charity work. One thing has nothing to do with the other. That's why true altruism is something that is totally selfless, is not a reality for humans, because it goes not just humans, but all animals, all living organisms. To be totally selfless is not a realistic thing for a human, because we are implanted in us. When we were created, that will to survive, that will to live is something that is given to us every single day. When we wake up in the morning, our goal for that day is to survive. The problem is that we forget that we are human, and we don't give ourselves permission to be human. We don't give ourselves permission to make mistakes, and we lose our identity. And if we lose our identity of us being humans, we can't connect to the spiritual energy in a healthy bond. We can't, because the spiritual energy, there are no questions. There are no half-truths. There are no perceptions. There are no lies. That's only in the physical world where you have all of that stuff. The spiritual energy that is with us is infinite. It doesn't start. It doesn't stop. It keeps going consistently without a change. The only thing that changes is our physical being. You breathe 12 to 18 breaths a minute. Inhale, exhale. That's a spiritual energy that's going in and that's going out, causing your lungs to expand and to contract. When is there a change? If you do exercise, then it will change. If you're anxious, it will change. If you sleep, it will change. The amount of rest will change, but the gas exchange from oxygen to carbon dioxide, that never changes. That spiritual change of gases, that is the expansion and the contraction of your lungs, that never changes. Never changes. That is the same. You, if you would smoke, for instance, you will affect that. A woman who's pregnant will affect the breathing. A person who overeats and has a huge belly will affect their breathing. But the actual concept of oxygen going in and out and the expansion and contraction of the lungs, which is a spiritual energy, you can't change that. You can never change that. When you see a person who is sleeping and a person who passed away, they look exactly the same. Both the cells are dying. We're both decompensating. The difference is that the living individual, the cells are rejuvenating, whereas the individual who passed away, who died, they are not rejuvenating anymore, because then the spiritual energy is gone. That's the change. When the physical stops, then it blocks the spiritual. You as humans, us as human beings, we have that power to alter how much we can connect to that spiritual energy. So when you're writing your truths, I'm going to give you 4 guidelines of how to recognize what your truth is. Like I said, it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's what we know for certain that just isn't. I used to say, I still say it, I am a perfect human being, absolutely perfect. I make perfect human mistakes. Perfect human. I make perfect mistakes. Something to remind myself, because I didn't believe that for the longest time. I was afraid to make a mistake. I was afraid to admit my vulnerability, because then that would be a sign of weakness. And because I was living as a survivor, that's scary. But the truth is, we are extremely limited. None of us, not trying to scare anybody, but it's the reality, know what's going to be tomorrow. We have no clue. It's my plan to wake up in the morning. That is my plan. What will happen? No clue. No idea. I'm not in management. I don't run the world. I'm not in charge of that. None of us. What we are in charge of is us and our perceptions, our selfishness, our human being selfishness. How do we know if something is true or not? That's a very good question. So I'm going to give you 4 guidelines. And this is a great exercise for you to work on for the week, to write down your truths if you want to. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But if you're here, that means you want to improve your life. Maybe you are having some anxiety. Maybe there's something that is troubling you. Maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you want to reach some goals. Maybe you're having difficulty in your marriage. Maybe you're single and you want to get married. You don't understand why you can't find anybody. Maybe you're having financial difficulties. All of this comes from the same aspect. They really do. Something that we work a lot on in our program. People who come in our program, they come with one certain belief, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, and then we're going to end and open up for questions. But before we do that, there's 4 guidelines. Hope you're writing this down. So if you have certain truths about yourself, I'm a good person, I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm married, I'm a good father, I'm a good mother, I have challenges here, I have difficulty with this, my personality, I'm good with people. I'm afraid of people. Whatever your truths are, and they're your truths. How many of them, however, are based on past experiences? I'll give you an example. If you're, God forbid, in a car accident, next time you get into a car, whether you were the driver or the passenger, you're going to be anxious. Your truth is that a car is dangerous. The car is no more dangerous or less dangerous before the car accident or after. That's not what made the car dangerous. The car is dangerous because it's a machine that can go 150, 180 miles an hour, and it weighs a ton or whatever, however much it weighs. And if not handled properly, it can kill people. And the bigger the car, the bigger the truck, the more damage it can do. So the car or the vehicle is just as dangerous whether you are in a car accident or not. However, your truth and your perception about how dangerous a car is based on your experience. So ask yourself, is your truth based on past experiences? How many of your truths are based on fears? Are there certain things that you're afraid of? If you had a bad experience, let's say you're an individual and you got divorced. So you're going to have a negative fear about marriage. If you were hurt, emotionally hurt, somebody left you, somebody abused you, somebody did something to you, the idea of getting married again is a very scary predicament. And if you're a male, you're going to have these negative beliefs about females, even though it's just one person. And if you're a female, you're going to have negative beliefs about perceptions about males, even though it's only one person. There's 8.2 billion people in the world. Because you got divorced doesn't mean that the 4 billion other females in the world are all bad, horrible people, or the other 4 billion males in the world are all horrible people. But your truth is that they are. Why? Because of your past experience, because of your fears. How many of your truths are based on your logic, on your limited logic? If you have a certain amount of comprehension of what life is about and what it's supposed to be, or maybe something that you were taught, is it based on your logic, on your physical logic? Then this discussion is going to be very difficult for you because we're talking about things that are a lot more esoteric. They're not in the box of logic. So if everything that you perceive is based on your limited logic, and logic has worked for you, then your truths are going to be based on logic. And how many of your truths are based on spirituality? How many times when things seemed so impossible, there was just no way out of it, and you said, you know what? I'm just going to step back. I'm just going to pray, and I'm not going to force anything to happen. And then all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, somebody made a phone call, something this happened, something that happened, completely different than your human logic had anticipated. You're going to have a very different truth about the power of the spiritual energy that is in the universe. When you're at a wedding or a gathering and you look across the room and look at somebody, and then all of a sudden they look back at you. If you're thinking about somebody one day and all of a sudden you bump into them or they call you, wow, I was just thinking about you. That's a spiritual energy. And the more you connect to them and not block it with our physical being, the physical energy, you will start to comprehend this power of the spiritual energy. The people that come to our program, people that struggle with different aspects of life, come with one belief. The belief is, I'm not good enough. I speak for the several hundred people that I've helped. That is I'm not saying every human being across the planet is like that. I can only speak about the statistics of the several hundred people that I have helped, that have come through our doors for the last 6 years. And they all have that belief that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough is not a logical perception. It is certainly not a spiritual perception. It's not even a physical perception. It's delusional. Because as a human being, if you understand your limitations as a human being, there is no subhuman in a human. There are humans that kill people, they're still humans. Humans that steal, they're still humans. There are humans that do kindness, they are still the exact same human. When the sun shines, it does not differentiate between the good humans who do kindness, generosity, are beautiful people and help others, and are well related with other humans. And it doesn't differentiate between the very bad human beings who do some horrible stuff. They all get the exact same amount of sunshine. When it rains on everybody, we all benefit from the rain that falls from the skies. This spiritual energy does not differentiate. It doesn't have that ability. It's only us that we differentiate. So when we say I'm not good enough, what we're basically saying is I forget that I'm a human being. And the truth is that I've discovered as of late that those people that really struggle with anxiety, with fears, with reaching their goals in life, with raising children, with just functioning in a regular aspect of life, is there is a deeper belief that they have. And that belief is that I'm not lovable. Spirituality is love. Love is spirituality. Love is the most powerful spiritual energy. The world was created through love. Spirituality is not something that changes. Love is such a powerful energy. And people who go through trauma lose that love. People forget that they're humans. They forget. They don't have that self-love. And the belief is I'm not lovable. And I had that belief for decades. I know what that is. It's horrible. Only people who have experienced that can comprehend that. And if you don't love yourself, it's very difficult to love somebody else. It's very difficult to receive love from somebody else. It's certainly impossible to give love. I'm not lovable. That will stop a person from that beautiful connection between our physical beings and our spiritual beings, and they will live with a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. So I end off with you, my friends. Write down your truths for yourself. Ask yourself, are they from experiences? Are they from fears? Are they from logic? Were there doubts? Are they from spirituality, where there are only answers? Because in love, there's only answers. There's no doubts. When people speak from their heart, when they speak from love, there's no greater energy in the universe. I thank you all for listening. We're going to open up for Q&A, but I do have an announcement to make. Next week, we are going to have another Mindful Monday, next Monday night, Labor Day. We're going to have a back to school, and the topic is going to be how to get back on track during back to school season. So before the holidays, there's a big transition. Camps are over, people coming back from the country. Summer is coming towards an end, even though the weather is still beautiful. Getting back to reality from the day-to-day grind. How do we stay on track? How do we get back on track? And we're going to be focusing on that topic on the 1st, next Monday, and then on the 14th, which is a Sunday. If you have any friends or relatives that you would like to also be part of this, you can text them, email them our information. All they need to do is text in to our office, 845-400-9466. There, and please put it into the chat. Or you can also have it at ascentbyktpo.com. That is our email. And they just have to write the word mindful. They will have access to they will get the notifications. And if you have something that you are struggling with and you'd like to talk to one of our coaches for free, just reach out to our office. Again, 845-400-9466. And we will be more than happy to respond and get in touch with you. I do have a question that was emailed to us, and then we will open up to questions and answers. Hold on one sec. Pause the. I'm going to read that again because I had the recording pause. I apologize. What causes me to look for validation from others, specifically by sharing my horror stories that I lived through my childhood? When I choose to do so, I'm always in a survivor state of being. This is an individual who has been through trauma in her childhood. And a person who goes through trauma in their childhood, not to compare one person's emotional neglect for another, they don't have an identity. They have never had that nurturing. They never got emotional nurturing. Every child, every human being, and we spoke about this last week, the 5 basic physical needs is air, water, food, sleep, and going to the bathroom are the 5 basic physical needs that every human being must have in order to survive. A child has a 6th need, and that is emotional stability. We have to be taught how to deal with emotions, how to gain our identity, how do we connect to this vast world that we're in. And if we don't have that identity, we forget that we are humans, and we struggle, and we seek that validation in the wrong place. And the wrong place is another human being. Because the truth is that once you reach 18, once you're an adult, your parents, who are the only ones who could give you that validation until 18, once you reach adulthood, your parents can no longer give it to you. Nobody can give it to you. They can give you compliments ad nauseum. They can tell you what a wonderful person you are and nurture you. However, if you did not receive it in childhood, you cannot find it anywhere other than within yourself. So the reason why you're seeking validation is you're looking for it in the wrong places. You can't find it anywhere outside of yourself once you reach adulthood. I'm suffering from deprivation, and I'm trying to find a connection between deprivation and perfectionism, because when I realize I might not have something important to me and my emotional health, I right away go to, but I did everything right. I feel like the world failed me. I did it all, and I'm still struggling financially. I feel like a child kicking and screaming. And I'm at a stage I don't even feel the want is strong. And I'm also not giving in. I ask myself, how will doing it help me in the long run? I then allow the silence to sink in. I'm healing like a spiral staircase going upwards. I'm revisiting areas, and each time I'm on a different level. Sounds like somebody who clearly is trying to find yourselves, and you're struggling finding yourself. And I really want to validate your feelings. And I've been there. I know what that is. And that perfectionism is when we forget that we are humans, something that we were talking about tonight. Remembering that I'm a human being, I have limitations. The irony of it is that's what calms us, the recognition that I cannot do everything. I don't necessarily have to do anything, something we teach a lot in our program. And just by that recognition, just by having that recognition that you are limited, it takes away that anxiety. Oh my gosh, I have to do something. I did everything right. It's not about doing. You're not a human doing. You're a human being. And being a human being means living as a human being, not necessarily doing. You don't always have to do. If you just connect and remember, I'm a human. I make mistakes. I have limitations. You put less pressure on yourself and your anxiety goes down. And the irony is, all of a sudden, life goes easier. So I really validate your struggle, validate your feelings. Once again, if you would like somebody from the office to reach out to you, like to discuss more, we'd be more than happy to discuss how we can help you further. I just got another text message with a question. How do you respond to a mother that says to me, make yourself lovable, when I did everything in the world to make her happy and proud? So let me understand this. You are now an adult, is that correct? The person who just texted in this question. You can either unmute or you can just continue texting. Yes, okay. So you're an adult. Okay. And your mother now is saying make yourself lovable, is something that she told you as a child. Waiting for her to respond. You're living in the same home. So you do not have your own family yet? Is that what I'm understanding? You are still single, living with your parents? Her motto, okay. So her motto is make yourself lovable. And what is your struggle because of that? I'm trying to understand. Pain. You have to expand a little bit more. You try to make your mother happy, and yet you don't feel lovable. Is that what you are saying? She withholds affection. Okay, I understand. Yes, this is exactly what I was talking about. The reason why some of us were brought up in such a home, and I want you to know that I really validate your struggle. I really do. And I'm never good enough. Yeah, I understand that. Somebody who's brought up in a home, it's called dysfunctional upbringing. It's called emotional neglect. That your mother passed on her truths that she was brought up with. I'm not criticizing your mom or blaming her. I'm just explaining to you your situation. That she passed on those truths to you. So her truths, would you say that her truths were based on her experiences, were based on her fears, were based on her logic? Where do you think her truths came from that she said to you this motto? I can become president of USA, give her most. I can become president of the United States, give her most love, be the best. I don't know what that is. Is that what your mother told you? That you, oh, in other words, no matter what you do, you're never going to be good enough. I understand that. So you spend a childhood trying to protect, or not really protect, but trying to get, yes, correct, trying to get that validation from your mother, and she never gave it to you. Win her love, yes. So first I'm going to tell you a truth that your mother, yes, I see who's raising your hand. You'll be next. It's literally what we were talking about. Your mother doesn't have love herself, probably because she didn't receive it from her parents. And therefore, she was not able to give it to you. And I can definitely relate to that. I was brought up, not to compare, but a similar from a bad marriage. Yes, okay. And because she didn't have it, she couldn't pass it on to you. And now you are suffering because of it. And what does a child do? We try to gain the affection of our parents. Why? Why do we do that? For our own survival as children. So we will try to earn our parents' affection, our parents' love, but they don't have it to give us. And what the child starts to believe, like I said, number one belief that each one of us comes into our program with is I'm not good enough. And that's where that belief comes from. So once you are an adult, it's not game over, I want you to know. It's not. And I speak from personal experience. I've been doing recovery for 24 years. It's not game over. Now, as I stated, that every human being is born with the cells that has in it the ability to sustain us through our entire life. If we did not get that upbringing and that affection and that identity from our childhood, once we become adults, now we can still get it, but not from our parents anymore. They missed the boat. They didn't give it to us because they didn't have it to give us. And we're affected by it, 100%. It's really important to recognize them. However, I decided it's better if she goes like Yitzchak Avinu. Aired up there, she will see who is Yaakov, who is Esav. I understand that you're very hurt and you have these beliefs that you're trying to figure out. And I'm here to tell you that you have that ability to heal yourself, but not so painful. Yes. Yes, it really is. I do. I really validate your pain. I feel it. Are you a member of our program? Not yet. Would you like one of the members from the office to reach out to you and then we can discuss with you more privately about how we can help you? Yes. Okay. Let me see who's here. Is Marilyn, you're able to take this person's information down and get in touch with them tomorrow? Yes. Let me see if she's able to. I'll text her. So we will have somebody to set up an appointment so we can talk to you. And I want you to know that I can really validate your feelings, not to compare pains or trauma. I've been through that, not the same. You can't compare it. And I understand it. And that is really what our program does. So I will have the office get in touch with you, and hopefully we can help you. And I really feel your pain. I'm so honored that you told me about it and had the courage to express your question here. Okay? Okay. Yeah, she responded okay. All right. So somebody will reach out to you tomorrow, and hopefully we can help you out. Sounds good? Yes? No? Waiting for a response. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hear you. Yes, SL, you raised your hand. You have a question.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for this presentation. It's always very good. I have a question before my question, if I may. Can I ask you something? It's just that, can I ask you something like, it's maybe a little off topic, but it's something that you said tonight? Anyway, about that, why are you reiterating a few times at the beginning, it's not a religious program, if anyone believes in God, when everyone really that's listening, we are all religious people, aren't we?
So the reason that comes from personal experience, I've been dealing with religious clients for the last 6 years. And if I tell you the percentage of them that get very afraid and tell me that the word Hashem or God is traumatizing to them, you wouldn't be able to believe how true that is. That's been my experience. And you're correct. 99% of the people who come to our program are all from people. Yet the word Hashem or God is so scary for them, for a lot of them, not everybody. And it is those people that I say that for.
So you're trying to say there are people that are religious, maybe in the schools when they went to, they perceived Hashem in the wrong way. They see it like a scary thing.
I don't believe it came from the schools.
It could be from the parents, could be their upbringing.
It came from the home where you were, if your parents were religious, yet they abused you, how would you perceive religion? You're learning in school how a religious person is supposed to act, but you witness something completely different.
I had the same thing actually in childhood, that certain things in religion were so plugged into us, but then I felt like certain things that they do are so connected what Hashem would like. You're right.
So
my experience.
People like that are going to have a very difficult time. And they have nowhere to go to talk to about it. You can't go to the Rabbanim and talk about this. And you can't go to the Dayanim to talk about this. And our program is for the people who have nowhere else to go. And I want them to feel safe and comfortable here. And that's why I emphasize that quite often.
I see.
Because it's been my experience. I've witnessed it. I'm not making this stuff up. And I understand it, and I don't judge these people. And I understand their struggles. And a lot of them come in denial and say, no, and then after a little while, they are willing to admit, not everybody. There are plenty of people who come in who have gone through trauma and don't have a problem with the Eibishter or with Hashem or with religion. Or We really want to help those who are suffering. That is what I do. And the reason why I do that is because I was there.
I appreciate that. But let me tell you that I grew up the same, similar, whatever, in suffering. But I did learn over the years through different teachings that a lot of things that I was brought up with, that's not really Hashem. When people see people acting cruel around them, and then they are supposedly religious, but then we learn that they don't really know, they're not giving over the right perception. You know what I mean? They're giving over the perception in the wrong way. Really, Hashem is good, and we're supposed to be loving to each other, and these mean people around us are just not doing what Hashem said to do. They portray themselves as these religious, God-loving people, but they're not really.
I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not going to judge people who look a certain way and act differently. That's not my point at all. So I'm not judging. What I'm saying is that I want to create a safe environment for people who have been traumatized and struggle with this stuff, where they can have a place where they can come and talk about it and heal from it, because it's very healable. But if you're not honest with it, if you don't say your truth, you're never going to heal with it. And there's a lot of pressure, especially in certain communities and cultures within the religious communities, that we're not allowed to talk about this stuff. And to have a place where they can come and feel comfortable so that we can change that perspective and actually connect on the way that they really want to connect. And that has been our experience. But it has to come in a place where I need them to feel safe. And it really is not a religious program. I'm not a Rav. I'm not a Pasek. I don't get into that at all, intentionally. Even though I talk about Hashem and God, I don't do that. And I want it to be a safe place for people who are struggling with this. They can come in and express it.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so now my question is that I never got validation. And today I'm an adult or whatever. I've moved on. I'm way beyond age 20. I won't say exactly my age. But still at this age, I still sometimes when I'm around my mother would still need her validation, which today when I'm learning that she went through trauma, I wouldn't say narcissistic anymore. I would say that she just didn't learn how to give validation, but like she would tell everyone else that I did a good job, but never to me type of thing. But I still crave it. And my question is, how do we heal this wound of needing validation and the I'm not good enough?
Beautiful. That's what the program does, is as you create your own identity for yourself, and it is a grieving process because we really want that connection to our parents. And it's very disheartening when we can't receive it because they can't give it. As you create your own identity, which is exactly what our program does, you will find that need and craving for something that your mother doesn't have to give will dissipate. And you will love her and accept her just as she is. And you have to grieve that loss, yes. It is something that you did not receive in childhood and never will receive because that has already passed. You can receive validation from yourself, and you can get that identity from yourself. But that you crave from your mother is not going to come in that way. It will come a different way. If you continue the healing process, I promise you, it just won't be in the way that you think it's supposed to show up.
I am now in the program, actually. I'm in the third week, but I'm just wondering, I want to get to the subconscious way how to heal it. Like, I shouldn't need it.
Yes, you're very new. And just that you are aware of this is already part of the healing, because you're uncovering certain truths that you had that you probably were not consciously aware of.
Okay, so I'll tell you the truth. I did different quantum freedom healing in the past. And whenever I went through any trauma, like lack of forgiveness or being dependent on a person, the wound, I'm not good enough, kept showing up and showing up. So that's my fear. Like, how do I make that, whatever, what do I need to do in order for it not to show up anymore? Like,
it will subside as you heal. The subconscious will do the healing for you. It's almost like somebody who wants to lose weight and they want to lose it in a certain part of their body. I don't know if you ever tried to lose weight.
I did.
And we want to lose it in a certain body part. We want to lose it in our waist, maybe, or we want to lose it in our stomach or our arms. And we lose weight, and it's not in the place that we want, and we get frustrated. And even though we've lost 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 25 pounds, we're very excited, but we want in that specific body part to lose weight. It's the same thing with the healing. We want to heal, and we want to heal in this specific thing. It will happen. If you continue to lose weight, you will lose weight all over your body. Your whole body will shrink, and you will lose weight everywhere. It's just a matter of time. So it's the same thing with the healing. You want it to lose in a specific area, it will heal. As you continue to do the work, I promise you will heal. Not in the way that you understand it, necessarily. Not in the way that you comprehend it, but it will heal. It will not be the same. Those days are over. It's past. Like I said, the physical doesn't stay the same. We never stay the same. Our childhood, your childhood is gone. It's not coming back. That awareness can seem painful because you can think, oh my gosh, you mean I'm never going to have that? No, I didn't say that. You absolutely will, but not from your mother. It will come from within. And as it comes within, the way you're going to think about your mother and connect to her is going to be very different.
And then I'll be able to have healthier relationships because I won't need validation.
Absolutely, 1,000%. You will have your own identity that you were supposed to get in childhood that you did not receive. You will create that. So therefore, once you have your own self-love, you'll be able to connect and interact with other human beings from a better place.
So what can I do now to start healing it? Like to tell myself what, or
you're doing it.
What am I doing? I'm just aware.
That's the beginning, is the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That is
you think as I work the program, it's going to dissipate on its own? 100%. That's what you're saying?
1,000%, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Me.
Anybody else have a question or a comment? Let me see if anybody else is asking. If you feel uncomfortable unmuting, you can text in your question. Let's see. Okay. I heard how, here's a question. Let me see what it says. So somebody here answered, I heard how you responded to the woman regarding the question about religion. In my mind, I just believe anybody coming through a healing to get to the real healing, it will only be through connecting to Hashem in the right way. Okay. That is your opinion. Okay. So you said anybody. How many people do you know who have come through healing? How many people have you worked with that you have this opinion? And you have this belief. No response? Okay. You're entitled to your opinion. I only speak about, I'm not saying everybody. I can only speak about the several hundred people that I have dealt with. That is my experience. So I don't know the only way. No clue. I don't make generalities because I don't know. But if that's your opinion, good, beautiful. Okay. Anybody else have a question or a comment? Again, if you don't feel comfortable unmuting, you can text in 845-400-9466. Or you can just press unmute. Let me pause the record. Again, a reminder that next week, Monday night, we will have the Mindful Mondays, and we will talk about back to school, getting back on track. If anybody would like I have a lot of anxiety. Okay. I have a lot of anxiety about money. Do you want to expound on that? What you mean by that? They have a lot of anxiety around money, about earning money, about spending money, about talking about money, about not having enough, afraid that you're not going to have enough money. What do you mean by a lot of anxiety about money? I always feel like my husband is not doing enough. So you believe that he's not doing enough. So what I'm understanding by your question is you have a fear that there's not going to be enough money for you and your family. Is that correct? Is that what you are saying? Waiting for your response. He's very calm type and feels like it will come, and you feel that you want him to be a little bit more aggressive. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. What you're referring to is a fear. And a lot of people are afraid to talk about money in general. And anything else, like the other person was asking about their struggle with their parents. So a lot of people what they struggle with is that there's a lack of clarity and self-awareness. And when there's that, somebody after, okay, I'll get to that. I'll get to you in a minute. Okay. That the way to get to this is through what's the word I'm looking for? Through clarity. That when you have clarity, you will know what you're able to understand and what that means. What does that mean, clarity? Is putting down on paper what your expenses are and how much money is coming in. Once you discuss with your husband about that, then you'll be able to get more understanding of how much money your home needs. And once you understand that, then you can say, okay, I want to have more of this, or I want to have more of that. Without clarity, there's going to have these fears. And fears are based on a lack of clarity. Does that make sense? So that you're saying that now it's very possible also that a lot of these fears come from something that we talk a lot about in our program, the deprivation. In other words, not believing that the universe has enough money, that there's no abundance in the universe, that the Abishur doesn't have enough money for us to survive. A lot of us have that deprivation that we were brought up with, a very deep concept. I'm not going to go into great length over here about it because it is a vast topic and a vast subject. So it is very possible that is what is struggling. And it really comes from the same thing that we've been saying till this whole night, is not having that identity of self. And when a person doesn't have self and they don't have that love and they don't have that identity because of a lack of nurturing, it will show up in many different aspects in our life. One of them is with our finances, very common. Okay, does that make sense? What I'm saying? Yes, no? And now we are fine, but I know it's not enough long term. There you go. It's a fear. It's just a fear. And the fear is that there's not enough abundance. Does not mean that it's not a realistic fear. You're saying, hey, the kids are going to get older. We're going to make chasnas, right? We're going to have to make bar mitzvahs. We're going to have to make simchas. We need money. For this, we have to plan for the future. Not a bad conversation, not a delusional fear. It really isn't. So that's something that needs to have a conversation with your husband. But once again, it's putting down what we have. And if you are not able to save money, then this can be spoken about with your husband. But if you're having fears about the abundance in the universe, that can also affect this. Okay? Somebody else texted here. She's trying to say, I'm assuming the other person was talking about the only way to have feeling is with a true connection to Hashem, that if many of us listening now hear that you don't believe that connecting to Hashem is the underlying source to all these modalities, first of all, I never said that. I never said that not connecting to Hashem. I'm saying that I had many from people who can't connect. That's what I said. So you misperceive what I was saying. And that's why I emphasize it's not a religious program, because I really don't want to get into this conversation, because here's a perfect example of a misperception of what I said. I didn't say that at all. My personal beliefs, me personally, I agree 1,000%. To me, there is no other way. It's only the Eibishter. However, people who don't deal with these people can't fathom that there are many people out there, from people, all doing the same stuff, who really have a hard time with the concept of the Eibishter. And they have nowhere to go. Where are these people supposed to go? I want to ask you. Where are they going to go to talk about this? Where should they go? I'm asking you who asked me that question. Where should those people go? How can they heal? They can't daven. They can't do the basic struggle with the basic mitzvahs. Where are they supposed to go? And they have from families, mothers with children, and they have nowhere to talk about it. And nobody understands them. So where would you like them to go? You don't have an answer. That's why they come to us. And that's why I'm very careful at the beginning when I talk to new people that I don't say that. There are a lot of people who don't have a problem with it, Baruch Hashem, but I'm very careful for that very specific reason. And that's why we mention that on purpose, so that we can help those lost souls, who really, they're not off the derech, they can't connect. And just telling them that you have to connect, what you're saying, it doesn't. Somebody else said also in the beginning, we don't trust the Eibusher yet. First, we have to learn to trust ourselves before we can have a relationship and trust in the Eibusher. 100%, absolutely. I don't know who wrote this, but yes, absolutely. And those are the people that we struggle, that come into a thing that they don't trust the Eibusher because they don't trust themselves. And that's why I use the terminology, the universe, whatever you believe. And that is exactly what this is about. So I hope that really answers you. And thank you, whoever put this in the chat. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm referring to, and you said it very well. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Again, if you want more information about our program, find out about it, call into the office, 845-400-9466, and somebody will call you to connect with you and tell you how we can help you. There are, unfortunately, a lot of people who suffer out there. And that's what we do. We've healed a lot of fear of intimacy, struggles with children, struggles with marriage, struggles with money, struggle with finances. And that is the healing that we do. So I thank you for coming. We'll be here next Monday night. You will get the notification if you want to continue, or you have friends or family who wants to get the notification. Oh, somebody else, I guess this is a member, said, this approach in the program works for us that need that approach in the beginning. Thank you, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much for saying that. Yes, I am aware, and that's why we do it. And I understand people who are they get a little, thanks for the event tonight, you're welcome. And some people get a little uneasy because they think that we're questioning our Amun and the Eibusher. Not at all. Not at all. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. And the people that need that, they really appreciate that. So I understand that. I'm a professional working in this for 15 years. So I really comprehend that. Wishing you a wonderful evening, the rest of your week. Hatzlacha. And again, we will be back next Monday night. I'm sorry. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.